Oh,
Yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a very special edition of the TechForge podcast. We're going to be doing something a little bit different this week. Here in the US, it is the week of Thanksgiving. And as we record this, we're only a few days away from the day after Thanksgiving, commonly referred to as Black Friday. And we here at the TechForge podcast, we like to highlight hardware deals. And Black Friday has some of the best tech hardware deals for people playing on the PC basically any time of the year between it and Cyber Monday.
Correction. Black Friday actually starts tomorrow at 5 p.m.
You know what?
Because they want their money.
yeah.
And they want to get rid of stuff. They want to get rid of their stock.
And I think it started last year on
Thursday.
Amazon.
I thought it started with... It might have started last Thursday like that.
I don't know. It's been a while.
You know what? They can say it starts whenever it does. It starts at 12 a.m. on the Friday after Thanksgiving. You can buy stuff before then. In fact,
you can skip your Thanksgiving dinner to go shop early and stand in line for 2 hours.
Yeah, no kidding.
Maybe get the crappy thing that you were trying to buy.
Yeah.
And maybe if you're lucky, you'll see one of those classic Walmart brawls, man.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like Royal Rumble in the Walmart. Ooh, yeah. I can't wait to see those YouTube videos.
Or you can be smart and follow our advice and take a look at some of these deals that we are going to highlight. Now, obviously, we're recording
and online.
Yes.
Before Black Friday. And so it's possible that in their intervening time that some of these deals may go out of stock. They might change. But at the time of recording, we're going to talk about 12 of the best deals that you can get online and avoid all the insanity of Black Friday.
Mm-hmm.
These are some really good deals that you've got, Mr. Ned and Mr. Hunter.
Yeah.
And so we'll start with what is the foundation of every solid PC build, and that is the motherboard.
Yep.
And our first deal that we have, and this one comes from Newegg. A lot of the deals come from Newegg because they've just got some absolutely bonkers sales this week.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the MSI X370 Gaming Pro Carbon motherboard. Now, this is normally a $169 MSRP motherboard. Right now, it is on sale for $109.99, but there's also a $30 mail-in rebate so that you can get this motherboard, which is a mid-range X370 motherboard that comes with a good VRM and can easily handle first or second gen Ryzen 7s for $79.99 after mail-in rebate.
Yeah,
so
it's
you
a pretty solid board.
And you get $30 back. It costs you $80 in the end.
Yeah.
Pretty solid board. It's got good I/O. It's got a 4-phase VRM. What else does it have?
It's got VRM cooling.
It's got an M.2 heatsink.
Yep. Here, let me share my page so that you all can take a look at this deal for yourselves.
That's two M.2 slots, one with a heatsink. So that'd be for the NVMe heatsink or slot, because those would get hot since they are usually fast.
It does come with MSI's Mystic Light software. So take a look at the VRMs there.
Mystic Light. Oh, that must be their RGB software.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Notice it does have a shielded audio.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the first things I noticed because it's illuminated.
Indeed. Now, this being an X370 board, I'll stop sharing now.
Yeah.
This being an X370 board, obviously there is the small caveat that if you're going to be using this with a Ryzen 2000 series processor, you may have to update the BIOS before you can do that.
Yep. The 300 series didn't have the BIOS for the Ryzen 2700, 27, or 2600, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing that I saw in a few reviews of the motherboards, the B350 motherboards. They were like, "This, my G20, the 2400G doesn't work with this motherboard. Not this specific motherboard, but the B350." And I was like, if you did research and watched YouTube videos, you would know that.
Yes.
And to upgrade the BIOS.
Yes.
Instead of not doing research and getting hurt.
And it's not like you had much of an excuse anyway. AMD had a program for months where you could request, I think it was an A6 9500 APU, so that you could update the BIOS on your motherboard, assuming you had a motherboard that didn't have something like QBIOS or where you could update it without a CPU installed.
Yeah.
And they would send you the CPU, and it was on the honor system. You were supposed to send it back, but let's face it, the fact they were sending it to you in the first place meant that they considered it an acceptable loss.
Well, it's an A6, right? It's bulldozer-based APU that works on DDR4 memory, so...
Yes, if you really, truly wanted that dual-core APU...
I really wonder how many people kept it.
I don't know. That's a good question. Because it was also limited to 2400 speed memory.
Right.
So you could essentially, oops, I forgot it, or I misplaced it into a computer for my brother.
Well, you could. That would not be ethical.
No.
You're probably put on some like AMD blacklist for the remainder of your life. Like the AMD police come after you then. Give us our APU back.
Yeah, I'm not saying do that or people did that. I'm just saying it'd be funny if some people did. I think it would be funny. It's terrible for AMD to lose their stuff, of course, without being... They might... I wonder if they would charge the person. Like, oh, you're keeping it. Well, we're going to charge you for it.
How would they, though? They probably wouldn't have your billing information other than maybe an address. So they send you a bill in the mail. Okay, fine. Maybe. $20. I'll spend $20 on an APU.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So, if you do get this motherboard, you're going to need a processor to put in it. And thankfully, there's some really good deals on both some first and second gen Ryzen processors right now. Now, we've included links down below in the description in our one tab page to three different CPUs, but 4 different links. And that's because one of the deals, just before we were about to go record, went out of stock. And so we had to find an alternative. So the first deal is the cheapest. I'm not sure it's the best value, but it is the cheapest. And that is right now you can purchase a first-gen Ryzen 5 1600 6-core CPU at $129.99.
That's a really good price.
Yeah, man. If you take the price of the motherboard that's listed there, along with that 6-core 12-thread processor, you're looking at $210 for CPU and motherboard. That's crazy.
I mean, there's even on Newegg, there's even a B350 Micro ATX, the MSI one Pro gaming Pro for $60.
Yeah, and
that's a pretty good one too.
I almost included that one, but I wanted to keep it to 12 in total.
Yeah.
So,
like the 12 days of Christmas.
Yeah, that was kind of, sort of. Yeah, that might have been my thought process. But the point of it being, the Ryzen 5 1600 is still a solid CPU. Yes, it's technically about 5 to 10% slower than its newer counterpart, the 2600. But that's nothing a little bit of overclocking can't fix.
Yeah, overclocking.
Literally a 30-minute overclocking session, and you can have it running just as fast. Assuming, of course, I am making the assumption that you do win the Silicon Lottery.
Well, a lot of them did 3.7 to 3.8. You know?
Yeah.
The golden samples would get up to 4 gigahertz, but...
And given that it has a 3.6 gigahertz turbo, if you're hitting 3.8, you're already doing better than out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a solid deal.
Mm-hmm.
I would not consider that a budget processor. I mean, that price kind of hints at that, but that's a crazy good deal.
Yeah, considering that just a few years ago, we were paying nearly $1,000 for 6-core, 12-thread processors, and you could only get them on high-end desktops.
Yeah,
that's absolutely insane.
And that processor is very similar performance, if not slightly better.
And so, speaking of performance per dollar, the original deal that I was going to highlight here, and the one that unfortunately went out of stock just before we started to record, was the Ryzen 7 1700X, which is an 8-core CPU with a base clock of 3.4 gigahertz, a turbo clock of 3.8 gigahertz, 95-watt processor, 8 cores, 16 threads. At Newegg, it was $149.99. Now, that did not come with a CPU cooler, but unfortunately, that particular deal right now is out of stock. Now, the reason I included a link to it in our description is because it has been in and out of stock 2 or 3 times already this week. So, it's very possible that on Black Friday, it could come back into stock. So, I've included it for your convenience.
Well, let's put that deal in perspective. So that's already an insane deal, right? But let's put it into perspective. There's nothing Intel has that at that price point. I mean, usually when I'm looking at Ryzen 7, like most of the time, Core i5, the higher end of the Core i5 stack is within the same price range. You know, for example, for $240, that's right. That's like Ryzen 7 2700 territory. The Core i5 8600K is a 6-core, and it's $240. So you're getting eight cores and 16 threads for $150. Dude, that's like a $90 difference, right?
Exactly. And when you're talking about that large of a price difference, especially in this price bracket, that's a huge deal.
Oh, yeah. There's so much more that the 1700X is so much more of a flexible processor versus the i5.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous. That's unbelievable.
So, because at time of recording, that deal is out of stock, I also included a link to the same processor on eBay where they are asking $169.99. So $20 more, but even at that price, consider that the Ryzen 5 2600 retails for $159. So for literally $10 more, you are getting 2 additional threads.
Mm-hmm. Well, 2 additional cores, 4
2
threads.
additional cores, and 4 additional threads.
Yeah. So to put that into perspective, all these prices, the Ryzen 3 2200G is $100.
Right, and it is a 4-core, 4-thread part with integrated graphics.
Yeah. The 2400G is right around 170.
Yep. So same price as this.
Yeah. And that's a 4-core 8-thread. Wow.
So even at this slightly higher price of $170, the Ryzen 7 1700X is absolutely a solid deal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that said, if you want something from the Ryzen 5 lineup, or you want something from the Ryzen 2000 series, in the same price bracket, you can get the Ryzen 5 2600 for $159, brand new.
That's a solid processor.
Yeah.
That's a solid processor.
If you're using that X370 board, of course, remember, it may not work straight out of the box. A lot of the X370 stock out there has been updated, but not all of it has. So you are taking a gamble.
Yep. Well, I mean, some of those boards probably have been sitting on shelves for a while.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why I say, if you're going to get that X370 board, then just grab the Ryzen 7 1700X. You're pretty much guaranteed for it to work, and you're honestly getting a better deal, even though it's costing you slightly more.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually good practice to pair chipset with processor, you know. So 300 series chipset with Ryzen first gen, 400 series chipset with Ryzen second gen. I mean, you can find good B450 boards for $80 to $100. I wouldn't suggest spending less than that, but you can find good, very solid B450s all day long between 80 and 100. No problem. And boards that I would not have a problem running an 8-core on.
Yeah.
And I'm not buying a $50 board and sticking an 8-core on there. That's just ridiculously dumb. So, because there's no tweaking capability there, like the power delivery on all those boards, they're $50 boards. You go 80 to 100, and then you're starting to look at decent VRM that can handle an 8-core. I wouldn't suggest overclocking them, but anyway.
That said, if you do go with the Ryzen 5 2600, Newegg does have a deal on a solid B450 board from MSI, the B450A Pro, for $75.
It's not bad.
It's a pretty good price.
So you can get similar price. You can get similar price parity with a B450 board and the Ryzen 5 2600, but I still think the better value is the Ryzen 7 1700X with an X370 board.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at what, $230 for the board and or 240, 250, somewhere in there?
Roughly.
Board and processor. Yeah, that's a no-brainer. 8 cores, 16 thread. Yeah, that's a no-brainer, man. And a lot of those do 4 gigahertz out of the box.
Yeah, the 1700X, you're guaranteed 3.8, and 4.0 gigahertz is not unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we know that with Ryzen, by the way, those of you who are rooting more for Team Blue, the reason we're not highlighting anything from Intel at the moment, it's not because we're AMD fanboys. Okay, we may be AMD fanboys a little bit. But it's not because we hate Intel. The problem right now is that the shortage on the 14 nanometer process has made Intel's price to performance values way out of whack, in particular compared to Ryzen, simply because they can't keep up with demand. That's why, even though the 9900K has been out for almost a month now, you still can't buy one. Or a 9700K. Or a 9600K.
I'm waiting for more.
You might be able to find an 8700 or an 8600K. Or if you're willing to spend for a pre-bin CPU, the 8086K.
Yeah. I mean, they're great products. They're just...
Right now, the pricing doesn't make sense from a value standpoint.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the absolute best gaming performance, then sure, buy Intel. But if you want to save a buck and have similar performance, then Ryzen really is the way to go.
Especially with what the X parts can do just at stock. The 2600X and the 2700X. What they can do at stock, I mean, they're clocking themselves all day long at 4 to 4.1 gigahertz stock.
Yeah, the XFR is pretty impressive, honestly.
It is. It is.
So,
I mean, if I could share my screen, I'm sitting here at about 4.1 gigahertz right now.
yeah,
and I'm not doing anything.
And the 3000 series CPUs coming out around next year is going to be, I heard 4.5 is going to be overclocked too.
That is the current speculation.
Well, that's what they've got in the lab, I think, right? That's
Yeah.
what some of the leaks have shown.
Of course, we know that with Ryzen is very memory dependent to maximize performance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you need solid high-speed RAM to do that. Thankfully, we've got you a nice RAM deal here as well. This one also coming from Newegg, and it's from a brand you don't hear about as much, perhaps, but a generally solid all-around brand, and that is Team Group.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a T-Force line of RAM that is their gaming brand. And they have their T-Force Vulcan 16 gig DDR4 3000 memory with in the gray heat spreader color scheme, which let me share that so you all can see it. There
and the
are.
red one is the same price.
Yep.
Indeed it is. If you prefer red, you can get it at the same price, but 16 gigs DDR4 3000, which I bet with a little tweaking, you could probably overclock to 3200 or faster. But that's coming on sale right now for $99.99. $100 for 16 gigs of DDR4. I've not seen prices that good since 2016.
I know.
Yeah, other companies would be like 130 or 120 something or more.
The next best deal that I found was a G-Skill Ripjaws 3200 set, 16 gigs for $119.99.
It's not bad.
Well, that's a pretty good RAM kit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I did find a couple of RAM kits similar in price, but they were always significantly slower. One was a DDR4 2666. One was a DDR4 2400. But this is DDR4 3000.
And you need at least 3000 to take advantage of Infinity Fabric to make AMD processors faster.
Yeah, 2933 to 3000 is right about the break point.
Yeah. And a couple of nice things to note about these. These are low profile. So if you have a cooler, say a lot of the AIOs that you top mount can run into clearance issues if the RAM is 40 if the RAM and motherboard combination is 40 millimeters or higher, you'll run into clearance issues. But with this kit being low profile, you won't run into into a lot of those situations. Plus, if you've got a cooler, say you got a tower cooler like one of the bigger ones, where the fan might hang over a bit and sometimes block that first DIMM slot, this does give you some flexibility in fan mounting options for that bigger cooler. So,
yep.
And these are nice looking kits, man. Honestly, the red's a bit strong for my taste, but the gray's is a nice looking kit.
Well, the red though, I actually have a build that would look really good in. A while back, I purchased an H170, a Gigabyte H170 Gaming 3, which is part of Gigabyte's G1 gaming series, which of course is famous for its black, white, red color scheme.
Nice.
So those red DIMMs would look perfect on that motherboard.
Yep.
Now, 16 gigs of DDR4 3000 is a little bit overkill for that particular system. But at that price, considering the kit that I have in it is an 8 gig kit that I purchased in about 6 months ago for $60 used. And this is a brand new kit, twice the size, for only $40 more.
Nice.
And so that takes care of. So just to recap, with the X370 board at $80, the Ryzen 7 1700X at $170 essentially, and $100 for the 16 gigs of RAM, you essentially have the core of a very solid all-rounder PC for only $350.
Yeah, that core components will handle any situation or workload that you throw at it.
Short of
super flexible.
High-end workstation tasks.
Well, even if it is high-end workstation, you've got 16 threads. Now, RAM might be limited, but get 2 RAM kits. Go for 32 gigs of RAM.
And $200 for 32 gigs of RAM there. If you get 2 kits.
Yeah.
I mean, consider if you get the exact same kit, but by 2x16, you're paying $249.
Yeah.
So you could get 2 of the 16 gigs kits and have 32 gigs of RAM for cheaper than you could buy the 32 gig kit.
Yep.
Still only have $450 in the machine.
That's crazy. 8 core with 32 gigs of RAM for $450. That's what people were spending in just the RAM over the summer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Easy. That's crazy. That's flipping phenomenally insane.
Of course, you got to have some storage in there somewhere. And we got a couple of good deals on some SSD storage. Either one of these would function very well as your storage for your main boot drive. The first one, credit to Hunter for finding this one. It's actually better than the one I found. It is a WD Blue 500 gigabyte SATA 3 SSD for $69.99.
That's insane.
Wow.
That's as much as a mechanical, like a 1 terabyte mechanical hard drive is, or was previously. But this is faster than a mechanical hard drive.
It's about 5 times faster than a 7200.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The WD Blue has sequential read writes of 560 megabytes per second and 530 megabytes per second, respectively, for read and write. And has a 500 terabytes written warranty. So,
And
500. Sorry, I said that incorrectly. 500 terabytes.
And also 1.75 million, if that's what the M means, hours of mean time till you have to buy a new one.
Yeah.
1.75 million hours. That's pretty insane.
And so 500 terabytes written, given that it is a 3-year or 5-year warranty?
Probably
5-year warranty. So 500 terabytes written would mean that you were writing over 100 terabytes of data to the drive per year. Considering that that is a 500 gigabyte drive, that would mean that you were writing the entire capacity of the drive 3 times over every day for those 5 years.
Also, I don't really know what's... My current OS drive is a 240 gig. It is down to like 6 gigs left. Also right. Because of Windows updates.
Yes.
And one of them killed my temporarily incapacitated my computer, but that's besides the point. I only put mainly mainly Windows stuff on it, and any program that has to go to the C drive that automatically goes to the C drive and I can't change the location, then it's stored on there. But if I'm thinking about going up to a 500 gig OS drive, because the 240 is of course almost full, and 256 gig is not going to give me much room. So that's actually a good deal. And $70, that's insanely awesome price.
Yeah.
For perspective, the Crucial MX200 500 gig that I'm using in my other rig, when I purchased that 2 years ago, that cost me almost $150.
Yeah. I remember seeing them at all the 500 gigs at 150, 149, maybe 100. Well, no, actually, it was just started out as 149.99. Maybe a little more if it was like the Crucial 525 gig.
Right, because they did some weird stuff with capacities back then.
Yeah, they do. Like the 275 gig. Like, how do you have a 275? Everybody else has like 250 or 240.
They do some weird things with over provisioning.
Well, to put that into perspective, in 2014, when I built my FX system, or 2013, a 128 SanDisk Ultra SSD was, and that drive's still running fine, by the way. That cost me $86. In 2015, when I built my i5 4690K, the 850 Evo at a capacity of 250 gigabytes was about the same price, $86.
And this
80 to 90, somewhere in there.
And this 512 was on AData, was on sale for $179.99, like a couple months to a year ago.
Yeah. Now you can get 1 terabyte drives for $120.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's just unbelievable.
Even M.2s are going down in price.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought about if I had a motherboard that had 2 M.2 slots, there's my storage.
Well, you got to be careful, though, because a lot of those that have more than one M.2, the going trend right now is one of the M.2s will be compatible with SATA controllers.
And then one is only NVMe.
Yes. The other one is PCI Express only. So, yeah. NVMe.
Better make sure you know which one is which.
Usually, what I saw is the top slot is NVMe and the bottom slot is SATA.
Yeah, that's no. Well, it depends. So on the X470
it really
board,
depends on the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
On a lot of the X470 boards, the top one is PCI Express and SATA compatible, and the bottom one is PCI Express only. And you have to be careful in addition to that, because the top one, it will be Gen 3 PCI Express, and the bottom one, in almost all cases, is going to be Gen 2.
Huh.
So if you want to RAID them, your bottom slot
PCI Gen 2 speeds.
Yep. Which cuts into your bandwidth. There's a couple of motherboards like the Crosshair 7, the X470 Crosshair 7 board has both of them as Gen 3.
Oh, wow.
But there's probably just a handful of boards that can do that.
And so the other deal, the first one I found, was for a Samsung 860 EVO. Probably one of the most used drives in existence.
Yeah.
The 500 gig model is available for $72.99 straight from Amazon with free shipping with Prime. It is eligible for Prime. And the 1 terabyte version, as you were mentioning, is only $127.98.
Jeez.
That's crazy.
So that is almost perfect linear scaling of price to capacity.
That's crazy, man. And that 860 EVO is a super solid drive.
Yeah, it is.
I've got 2 of them in this thing, and then I built another one for my kids. Yep, it has the 500 gig in it. Super solid. And go ahead.
The Samsung Magician software is some of the best out there for cloning and replicating drives.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yeah, you can do it with other programs like Macrium Reflect, but Samsung's Magician software just makes it so easy.
That's pretty cool.
So, 2 solid options for your storage needs.
You can never go wrong with a Samsung SSD.
Yeah, they're the top of the line. It's funny that Kingston created the SSD.
Did they?
Yes, they were the first company that had it.
Nice.
And then Samsung basically perfected it. From my perspective, they perfected it because they have the best SSDs.
Yeah, Samsung does have the advantage that they're able to do the entire vertical in-house.
Yeah.
They manufacture their own PCBs, their own chips, their own RAM, their own NAND flash.
Their own controllers, their own software.
Exactly. They're able to do the entire vertical in-house.
Yep.
And didn't they come up with the 3D stacking first? Or was it another company?
I don't know.
Toshiba would fight about which one came first, because Toshiba came out with their Bix Flash at almost the exact same time that Samsung came out with their 3D VNAND.
Yeah, 3D VNAND, that was the 3D stacking.
And so, like I said, Toshiba and Samsung would fight about it. But so you really can't go wrong with either of these storage options, honestly.
Yeah. And then the next big thing in the 2.5 or even, I guess, M.2 storage world is 2 terabyte SSDs.
Yeah, their affordability is right around the corner, I think.
Looks like there is a 2 terabyte on Newegg. It's almost $300. The Micron is $280. Nope, $290.
Yeah, that sounds
about right. It's a 2
right.
terabyte. 530 megabyte read, 500 write.
Yeah, I'm looking here at the Samsung 860 EVO because Amazon lists all the capacities. Technically, there is a 4 terabyte 860 EVO.
Wow.
You just have to pay $767 for it.
Oh my god.
Jeez.
That's crazy. Because you can buy, what, 4 of the M.2 860 Evo 1 terabytes for
Right around
$127 a piece.
It's not entirely too much because I did see a 2 terabyte like 2 years ago, a 2 terabyte SSD for like 1,000 something, and somebody on whatever forum or whatever bought 2 of them for his computer. I'm like, you're insane paying that much.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you have a need for it. I mean, like,
Yeah.
you do a lot of content creation work.
Yeah.
You know?
He was just going to buy it for gaming.
Okay.
Yeah.
And somebody's a baller, is all I gotta say.
$2,000 for 2 terabytes of SSD for 2 drives.
Yeah.
Because I'm awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to rate them.
Yep.
We going to rate them.
Yeah, somebody's far more balling than me.
Jeez, that's crazy.
It's the same kind of mindset that it's like, I'm going to buy 4 video cards and SLI them, not because any games take that ability, but just because I can.
Well, if you have slightly less lofty ambitions for your GPU, we do have a couple of GPU deals here. I narrowed it down to 2, one from AMD, one from NVIDIA, so that whether you cheer for Team Red or Team Green, you've got a solid deal here. The first one is from Team Red. This is the MSI Radeon RX 570 Armor 8G OC. So this is an RX 570 8GB card. That immediately sets it off as something a little bit special because most RX 570s are 4 gig cards. But this card normally sells for $179.99, but right now there is a $30 mail-in rebate, which would bring it down to $149.99, and Newegg has a $15 off promo code EMCEERE58 that brings the price down to $134.99 for an 8GB RX 570. Now, you could argue that the RX 570 is not a strong enough GPU to really need an 8 gig frame buffer. And that's a valid argument to make.
That's fair.
But as we are continuously seeing even very middle-of-the-road games start to use more than 4 gigs of VRAM, although 8 gigs might be a little bit overkill, at that price, at $135, why not? Especially considering it does come with the AMD gift, which at the moment allows you to choose 2 games for free from Tom Clancy's The Division 2, the Resident Evil 2 remake, and Devil May Cry 5. So you're getting 2 free games that AMD values at $100 with your purchase.
You can't really beat that value. I mean, $130. That's cheaper than a 1050. That's cheaper than a 1050 Ti, and this is actually slightly better than a 1050 Ti. So
yeah, the RX 570 is not that far removed performance-wise from the RX 580 and GTX 1060.
And if you don't like the cooler for that price, spend $30 on an Accelero,
And you've still saved money.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you've got unbelievable temps and super quiet fans, man. It's not that hard to mod.
So
take one off, put the other one on.
If you have a little bit more money to spend and you're aiming more toward gaming at 1440p or maybe doing a bit more productivity-oriented work, we also have from EVGA the GeForce GTX 1070 for the win gaming, featuring their ACX 3.0 cooler. This is an 8 gig card. It is $329.99 on sale, but there is a $20 rebate. So that brings its final price to $309.99. And you do get a game code for Monster Hunter World.
Not bad.
So I have seen people make the argument, and it is a good one, that yes, you can get GTX 1070s for right around $200 to $230 on eBay used, as people are dumping their 1070s to try and upgrade to probably the RTX cards.
Not me. No. I have actually that 1070 for the win, and I still like it, and I'm not... The benchmarks just aren't there for me to do an RTX card, plus the money cost, the cost of the cards.
Yeah. But an RTX 2070 can get you like 20 frames per second in Battlefield 5 with ray tracing.
And the reflection will look so amazing on the guy's helmet in front of you.
And the slideshow feel is very retro.
Yeah.
So, regardless, the GTX 1070 is still a very solid card.
One thing to note, though, I really hope that this 1070 for the win has the thermal pads on the back plate, because when I bought mine, it didn't have it on there.
But you can still request those from EVGA,
yes,
correct?
You can. You can still request those. You have to register the card when you buy it. Please do that, because you also get in the Step Up program. You can pay the difference of the higher end card, of the Step Above card, like a 1080 or whatever. Well, 1080 for this one. 1080, certain level of 1080 for the difference of the card from going from the 320, the 330 to whatever the cost of the 1080. I never did that, but I wanted to. I just couldn't at the time. Also, registering your card means they'll give you the thermal pads and thermal paste for free if you want to do the put the thermal pads on yourself, which you then can put on new thermal paste if you want to do that. Well, you have to do that to put the card back on. And I think they have some other benefits to registering. So it's a good thing. Also, of course, a warranty. So it's definitely a good idea to register a card. I've never really did registering products before, because like I don't want them to have my information, but it's actually beneficial when manufacturers give like certain benefits to registering the products. So in this case, you have them send you the free thermal pad kit, or you buy thermal pads on Amazon.
Well, there you go. A testimonial from a satisfied customer.
Yep. And the color scheme is really nice.
Yeah, that gray and that the silver and black is a nice neutral color scheme.
Well, the RG, I think mine is RGB, or it might have been the 1080 that's RGB, but it's white. Looking at it from the side, it's the EVGA and GeForce GTX 1070 is in white. For the Win is in blue, which matches well with my color scheme, because I have blue internals, blue cables, blue power supply cables, and blue LED fans.
You're right. It does mention here that the LED on the side is indeed RGB. So
nice.
That matters to you? There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all this great gear we've talked about so far can make you a solid rig, but it's not going to do you any good unless you have a power supply for it. Thankfully, we've got you a deal on one of them as well. And this from a very reputable brand. Seasonic is probably not as well known today as it once was, but Seasonic is one of the OEMs, the original manufacturers, or the original equipment manufacturers, who produce power supplies that are marketed under other people's brand names, including Corsair, EVGA, and the like. But Seasonic also produces their own power supplies, and this one in particular is the G Series SSR-550RM. Now that catchy name means that it's a 550 watt power supply, and the fact that it's part of their G Series means it is an 80 plus gold certified power supply. Now, most power supplies in this price bracket would be 80 plus bronze. The fact this is 80 plus gold means that you're going to be achieving, I believe it's 85% or better at 20 and 50% usage. 85 or 87? I always get those mixed up.
For which one?
For 80 plus gold.
I think that's 90%.
I thought 90% was platinum. And then titanium is like 92%.
Well, it wouldn't be 87. It's either 80 or 80. Yeah.
Let's see. 80 plus is 80%.
Plus would be bronze, wouldn't it be?
Well, 80 plus white is 80%. 80 plus bronze, I believe, is 82%. It's like, it varies. 82 to 85%. 80 plus silver is 85% guaranteed. 80 plus gold, I think, is 87 to 89, but
80 plus gold is 87 to 90. Okay. 87 at 20% usage, 90% efficient at 50% usage, 80% at 100% usage.
Okay, so yeah, you'll notice that there is a tipping point there that right around 50% usage, efficiency starts to go down instead of up. But the fact that it 90% efficient at 50% usage, which 550 watts, that's going to be more than enough to power any combination of the parts we've talked about so far. 550 watts is more than enough for basically any single GPU machine out there. Unless you're doing something absolutely nutty like Threadripper with a Vega 64.
Well, what about if you're overclocking your GPU? Do you need more power, or is 550 good?
It depends on the GPU.
Yeah, if you're overclocking Vega 56, 550, I don't know, it kind of depends. So say you've got a 2700X and 4 sticks of RAM and a Vega 56 that's overclocked.
Yeah.
You might want like a 600 or a 650.
Probably 650.
Yeah.
Usually people would go with what's the minimum that I can use, and then they go above that, just in case, extra headroom. I have an 850 watt in my computer because at the time that I got it, I was using 2 video cards in Crossfire, and I just stuck with that. And I'm at a 1070 with a FX 8320 stock clocked, unfortunately, because the overclock only lasted for the 4 gigahertz. The only 0.5 overclock lasted for 6 months before it crashed my computer. I think probably because of the lack of VRAM cooling, because it doesn't really have any. It has heat sinks on it, but not
Active
much.
VRM cooling.
Yes, not active. Which I didn't know about that at the time when I overclocked it. So I have a lot of headroom for current parts and future parts.
So the reason I wanted to highlight this PSU in particular is because it does have a $10 mail-in rebate on it, which takes it from being $69.99 to $59.99. $60 for an 80 plus gold power supply that is modular, no less.
That is really good. Oh yeah, that's really good, because most modular cases are like, modular power supplies are closer to 100 or over.
Yeah.
So this 550 watt, admittedly, it might be on the low end for a higher end system. You know, if you did pick the Ryzen 7 1700X and did pick the 1070, it would likely handle just that pairing. But if you ever decided to go to multi GPU, then you'd have a problem.
Yeah.
But you know, a 1700X with a 1070 and the hard drive and the 16 gigs of RAM that we've talked about previously, I think you would handle that with ease.
Oh, it would. Yeah, the 1070 is a pretty efficient card.
Oh yeah,
it's like a 180 watt part. So, and is this a single rail? Yeah, this is a single rail. Yeah, you're gonna be totally fine with this power supply. No problem.
Yeah, Seasonic makes solid stuff.
Oh yeah, they do. Especially their small form factor power supplies.
Yeah, I'm running a Seasonic 850 watt power titanium power supply, which is 2 steps above this. It's 92% efficient.
Nice.
But again, like you, Hunter, I'm running a Ryzen 7 1800X with a pair of RX 480s in Crossfire.
Yeah.
So... Give me power. More power.
Right. That makes me think of Biff in the future.
Oh my gosh, you just compared me to Biff. At least he became an honorable. Wait.
No.
Didn't
Which version? Which version?
Crap.
Because he was a jerk in one. He was Mad Dog Biff in the future. And then at the very end, he became, okay, I'll wash your car. I'll wash your truck. Just don't hurt me.
So 80s Biff, that was like
second version,
demasculinated or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, he was the only decent one. Like, old man Biff was a jerk.
Yep.
Young Biff was a jerk.
Rich Biff was a jerk.
Oh yeah, he's probably the biggest jerk.
Yeah. Mad Dog was just dumb.
Mad Dog
Biff. He's the one with the souped up hoverboard.
Oh, that's right.
They can run on water with power.
Yeah, and he had like didn't he have a titanium cranium or something? Like,
yeah.
Chrome dome. Yeah, he was an idiot. You'd think with a computer for a brain, like, you'd be smarter than that, but no, apparently not.
Depends on it's a. Oh, that's crazy.
Not to get too far afield, but so we've put all this amazing hardware out there for you to build a PC with, to excellent deals.
And for the.
Go ahead.
And for if you're missing out on cooling, Newegg has good liquid coolers, even 120 millimeters for cheap. Air cooling is also a good idea if you don't want to bother with water cooling, and air cooling is cheaper.
Yeah, they had a couple of solid deals on Cooler Master's Master Liquid Light series. They had the 240L, which is a 240 millimeter closed loop liquid cooler for $50.
It's a really good
and
deal for
the
240.
120 version for $40, if I remember correctly.
That's also a good deal.
But with all this nice hardware, you're going to need something to view it on. And so this one's more aimed at kind of the RX 570 than the GTX 1070, since this is a FreeSync monitor. But the deal is just too good to pass up. This is the Acer GF246 BMIPX. Lovely naming scheme Acer has there. Is a 24-inch HD gaming monitor with AMD FreeSync support and built-in speakers, and 1 millisecond gray-to-gray response time. The only real downside to this particular monitor is that it is only 75 hertz. So it has a maximum refresh rate of 75 hertz. That said, you're only going to be spending $100 on it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't beat that deal for FreeSync. You just can't beat it.
The current price is $119.99, but there is a $20 off promo code, EMCEERE34. That gets you an extra $20 off. So for $100, you get a 75 hertz AMD FreeSync monitor. And like I said, if you got that RX 570 I mentioned earlier, you have pretty much the perfect GPU to pair with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just priced up the 1600. I priced up a system out of this price list, just the system, and this is not including a case, obviously, but for the MSI X370, the Ryzen 5 1600, the RAM, and the WD Blue SSD, the 570, and the power supply, $575.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, you throw $50 in for a case, $620, and you've got a really solid all around system that can game at 1080p really well.
1080p, high settings.
Yep.
And because you're running the Ryzen 5 1600, it's going to stream well, particularly if you use software H.264 encoding. Because, well, unless you're using Radeon's Relive, which is in their software, I would not recommend using their AMD encoder for, say, a separate program like OBS. The quality I've experienced with that in the past has not been great, but Radeon Relive is actually pretty decent.
I've done some recordings with Relive, and it's not bad. It's pretty good.
And the CPU comes with the AMD Wraith Spire cooler, so
yeah, so you don't even have to chuck in extra for the cooler.
Yep. And that cooler is so much better than the Intel cooler, stock cooler. I've been really impressed. I've seen a lot of videos on comparing the Wraith coolers, and they did good with it'll handle mild overclocking and probably XFR. So it's pretty good if you don't have the money or you don't want to go up to a air cooler or liquid cooler yet.
Well, the Wraith Spire is also the same one that they put on the 1700.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Which that's an 8-core.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can on a 6-core, any of the 6 cores, you can minus the 2600X, which the Wraith Spire also comes with. You can do some limited overclocking. It's pretty decent, and it's a very quiet cooler.
Yeah.
Even nearly maxed out. Like the only Ryzen cooler I wouldn't suggest overclocking on is the Stealth.
Yeah.
That's going to get you, stock performance, but
yeah,
it's a free cooler. So
you were mentioning a case. I'll share this. This is from Newegg's Black Friday sale, which is where a lot of these deals come from. Present to everyone. Okay, so here are the case options in their Black Friday sale. Here's a solid one, the Corsair Carbide 200R. $49, $10 rebate for $40. The Fractal Define Meshify C in white with the tempered glass for $75.
Which that is my all-time favorite mid-tower case right now.
They do have these DIY PC options. They're cheap, but they're cheap for a reason.
Yeah, they're basic features.
You got more carbide and obsidian ones here. This is a fairly solid option here. The P350X from Fantex.
That's the one I was thinking of. That's the more budget-oriented Fantex case I was thinking of.
And it's currently $60.
That's a very solid case.
If you want to go real budget, you have the Corsair Carbide Spec 01. This is a solid budget case. I've used it in the past. Right now, it is $24.99 after $20 rebate.
That's crazy.
So there's solid deals this Black Friday. Like I said, putting together the system that we mentioned here, just from the parts we've mentioned, you can get a roughly $600 1080p gaming PC that you can also use for productivity work and have a decent FreeSync monitor to game on.
Yeah.
For right around $700.
Get it while it's cheap.
Yeah. I just thought of something interesting, guys.
What's that?
So if you have a video card that's like a black hole for power consumption, that goes crazy, and it dumps all of the heat into your case. One really solid way to insulate your CPU from the heat is to have an AIO that's intaking air. I just thought of that. And you scrolled over a $50 240 mil AIO.
Yeah, he mentioned
the Cooler Master.
Master Liquid Light 240.
Yeah.
He mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just making sure. That's what made me think of it.
That's a really good price for 240 rad for 240 AIO. I've seen others that are 100 or around 100 or 130 or whatever.
Well, the Kraken X52 is a 240, and that's $150.
Yeah. Well, that also has an infinity mirror in the water pump thing.
Yeah.
Now, I do feel obligated to mention the Master Liquid Light does use a relatively thin 25 millimeter radiator. So,
well, the majority of the 120 millimeter based AIO radiators are 27 millimeters, 25 to 27. So that's pretty standard.
Right, but I'm just saying compared to some of the higher end 240s like the Corsair H110 or H115 or the NZXT X2 or X62.
Those are 280s though.
Yeah, those use 280s, but they're also thicker. I think they're closer to like 33 or 37 millimeters.
I don't know. I'd have to look at that.
And having thicker radiators, I've learned it's better for cooling because you're pushing air through either denser fins or
you technically have more surface area to the fins with a thicker radiator.
Yeah,
true. But then you run into some clearance challenges because when you look at so 25 millimeters pretty standard for those AIOs, but then you're adding another 25 millimeters for the fan. So 25 to 27, that's anywhere from 50 to 52 millimeters total.
The thick radiator AIOs are good for front-mounted cases because it wouldn't have any clearance issue for the motherboard.
Yeah,
the only time I would suggest a top-mounted AIO is if you can't mount it on the front, or you already have some sort of liquid cooling for your CPU, and your GPU is an AIO.
Yeah.
Because then you can exhaust the GPU heat out of the case.
Well, even if it was if you needed GPU AIO, I would do it with the exhaust fan. That way, it's here, and then the cables, the tubes are going down instead of going from the top over the CPU and then going to the bottom.
Right. Well, point being, you're exhausting it. So
yeah.
And that's probably going to be your number one item that creates your case heat anyway, is going to be your GPU.
Yes. Oh, yes.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I'm afraid we have exhausted our list of deals.
What?
So, anything else you'd like to add before we call it an evening?
Not that I can think of.
I'm just going to look into getting some new parts eventually. Either now or eventually. Probably now. It'd be cheaper now. It'd be cheaper this weekend.
It's not a bad idea. A lot of great deals.
I'm getting a little tired of my FX8320.
Yeah, it was a decent budget processor in its day, but its heyday is a bit past.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, those things bottleneck 1060s anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to have a new processor, motherboard, RAM. Unfortunately, I have to pay for pretty much everything except for the graphics card and power supply.
Well, hey, we've given you some solid options to look at.
The Meshify C, I really like that, especially because it has great airflow from the front and from the top, of course.
Yeah.
So
the
mesh.
I can tell you, if you're considering Ryzen 7, I went with the Cooler Master Case 5T. And it's a solid case. The only problem with it is that it has an acrylic front panel. And I was running into BSOD errors and random shutdowns. And unfortunately, it was because there was insufficient airflow.
Yeah, that's why I want the Meshify.
When I took that acrylic panel off the front of my case, I hadn't had that problem since.
Yeah. That's why I want the Meshify C, because it has the holes in the front.
Yep. Or if you're looking at similar cases, I don't think it looks quite as good as the Meshify C, but the Silverstone. There's a Silverstone mid-tower that is slightly better with airflow, but it's louder. And I don't think it looks as good. I kind of like the Meshify C's looks a little more.
Yeah.
So, but both are solid cases, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching this special edition for Black Friday of the TechForge podcast. Next week, we will return to our traditional format where we take a look more at the tech news. It's just this week, so much of the tech news has been focused on Black Friday and the hardware deals that are available. It only felt proper that we take a stab at it too.
Yep.
And so, yes, sir. If you find any other deals that you would like to let us know, put them in the comments down below. We'll be happy to take a look at them and let you know what we think.
Yep.
In the meantime, from all of us here at the TechForge podcast, thank you very much for watching. And remember, when life has you down, forge on.
Yep, forge on.